Welcome back to Serious Talk, the Military Minute. I'm your host, Greg Banks. Thanks for coming along today. Some families don't just serve, they specialize in it. My guest today grew up with grandparents, a father, and uncles, all who wore uniform. Then she put on her own uniform, 6 years as an Air Force Arabic linguist and an intelligence operator, married to a career pilot, and still finding time to found a Salesforce user group on the side. Meagan 𝗀𝘆𝗄𝘅 is a rare combination in this seat, a veteran and a military spouse, and she brings both perspectives to this conversation. We get into why she wrote her own 2-week notice after a run of back-to-back deployments, the grandfather who finally opened up to her after her first combat tour, and how stacking every veteran resource she could find turned into a Salesforce career. It's a good one. Let's dig into it. Welcome to Serious Talk, the Military Minute. Great to have a guest on the show today that a lot of you are probably already going to know, Meagan 𝗀𝘆𝗄𝘅. How you doing, Meagan?
I'm doing well. How are you doing, Mr. Gregory?
Doing well. So Meagan is a little unique in terms of guests. She's not only a military spouse, but also a veteran herself. Served 6 years active duty in the Air Force, plus what you call the obligatory 2 years of reserve.
Yeah.
Yeah. Her husband is 21 years active duty U.S. Air Force, and she is most recently the founder of the Jersey Shore user group community. I'm sure I'm probably saying the name of that wrong, but I watched it play out on LinkedIn, make sure all the right approvals from Salesforce came in to get the group created.
Yeah.
But to say the least, she's busy in the community. So Meagan, thanks for coming on. Look, we try to tell stories of veterans and military spouses. You happen to wear both those hats, but just over the conversations we've had over the years on the military side of things and the Salesforce side, I thought you'd be a great personality to come and share some of your journey. So thanks for coming on today.
Thank you so much. I'm super stoked to be here.
Awesome. So before we get into your service time, I always want to start with who the person is before you went in, because I have heard all kinds of stories about why people went in, from avoiding jail time to my daddy did it, my granddaddy did it, so I did it kind of a thing. But tell us a little bit about Meagan before she enlisted.
Ironic that you say that. My bio dad actually did join the Marine Corps because it was that or jail for boosting cars. So, but that wasn't me. That was him.
That explains a lot.
I know, doesn't it? Yep. No, I am from a military family, a very long line of military. Both of my grandparents were in the Marines. Sorry, my grandmother was in the Marines. My grandfather was in the Marines. My dad was in the Marines. His brothers were Army. And then if you go on my mom's side, my grandfather was in the Marines. And on his side of the family, we found, I think I talked to you about this a couple weeks ago, going back 4 generations, my family served right when they came over in like Kansas and Arizona. And then most of my uncles have served in the military. My younger brother is in the Navy right now. So when I say like I'm from a military family, it's almost impossible to beat me on that.
So does Michael Buffer come host Thanksgiving, like this, get ready to rumble, all the branches represented, or is that just
it's pretty brutal?
Chaos is the norm.
You know what we don't have, because it's not a real branch? Space Force.
I knew that was coming.
Yeah.
Not yet, right?
No. But
good deal.
For your Army guys, I grew up in Fort Leonard Wood, Missouri. And that's about as military as you can possibly get.
Understood. So when you chose the Air Force, like obviously all branches were on the table except maybe Space Force, because everybody in your family done one or the other. Why'd you choose the Air Force?
I chose the Air Force because my grandpas told me to choose the Air Force. You got one coming at you from the Marine Corps, one coming at you from the Army. And when they both said, go in the Air Force, I listened, because between the two of them, they had over 60 years in the military.
Understood. And you did 6 years. I always forget the term. I know it's MOS in several branches, but it's
AFSC.
Yeah.
AFSC.
There you go.
Yep. My Air Force specialty code. So I was a 1-alpha-8X1. And because I was part of this really cool group, I was one of the first to get dual qualified as an X2 as well. So they didn't have a pipeline built. This was in the early 2000s. So I was an Arabic linguist, and I was also an ISR operator.
Convenient skills to have about that time frame.
Yeah. The best part about it was that I maxed out what's called my FLIP pay, my foreign language proficiency pay. So as like a young airman, it was awesome to get like an extra $12,000 a year tax-free for doing my job. Yeah.
You got to find every angle you can to benefit from that, right?
100%.
We for those in the Military Trailblazer Office Hours who might listen to this, Meagan's always looking for the ways to to leverage the program, the benefits that are afforded to you. Make sure you get your use of those.
And I like to spread those benefits to other people when I find them.
Indeed. So 6 years, at some point you decide to get out.
Did.
What was the cause of that?
I was on my 4th deployment in about 2.5 years, and I had absolutely no life balance. I was getting my deployment orders before I had my redeployment orders. So redeployment is when you're coming home. So I would get orders to deploy again while I was still deployed. And that happened twice, actually. And I was just burnt out. I told them I wanted to go be an instructor because I was qualified to be an Arabic instructor. And they said, no, Air Force needs you. And I said, fine, I want to go ground. I need a break. And they said, no, absolutely not. And I said, I want to retrain. And they said, no, you're an Arabic linguist. Like, you're not retraining. And I said, deuces, here's my 2-week notice. And I wrote out a 2-week notice and handed it to my commander.
Lessons in
Not
life,
petty at all.
kids.
I was not petty at all. But no,
Wow.
it was good though, because my AFSC, like, it's such a small, like, niche group that I got picked up right away when I came out of the military to go work for a contract company out of Maryland in Aberdeen Proving Grounds. Can't get away from the military. We subbed for Boeing, developing the ISR response for the Army to meet the Air Force's Liberty program. So MC-12s.
We will have to have a glossary to go with this.
I do
I
speak
keep
in
learning new terms.
acronyms.
I'm getting better, but
I
yeah,
do speak in
acronyms.
acronyms. The MC-12 is a fixed wing ISR platform that is used for low to medium range altitude for intelligence, surveillance, and reconnaissance.
Good deal. Good deal.
Yeah. I used to be cool, Greg. I used to be cool.
You've continued to find a way to stay in high demand, and that
Trying.
persists. This is one of my favorite parts. I always like to hear about. You've obviously have gotten out. You have found a career. You're navigating those things, and you've moved through a couple of companies and opportunities.
Mhm.
When you look back on your time of service, things you learned during your time in the military, I think one of the things we hear the hardest is translating the things you did into civilian lingo. You learned Arabic. You probably don't have a problem with that. But what are some things that you would credit your time in service to that you leverage today?
Is this where I get to put in my little flexibility, resiliency, and soft skills? Is that part?
Sure.
We can do that. We
Sure.
can do time management. Let's talk about Meagan before the military. And my husband will argue now that I still don't have time management skills, but depends on the day. That is
Maybe
really
you're
the
just not
big one.
aligned on priorities.
Yeah. It really is though. Like, when I'm from Fort Leonard Wood, from a very small town, and honestly, going to college it was not a big deal then, and really it's not necessarily like the biggest deal now. That I aced school because it wasn't hard. And then when I went to college the first time, it was so difficult because I had never had to try in my life, like, outside of sports. I was very competitive and I had spent all the time in the world, like, playing basketball and softball. But when it came to studying or doing something that had timelines attached to it, I just couldn't focus. I didn't know how. It's a skill and it's a muscle and it's something that you have to practice. The military forces that on you. And, some of you may know about the Defense Language Institute, and Arabic is a Cat 5 language. And the rock out or failure rate is very high. And it was very high when I was there because the new defense language proficiency test was number 5 and it had an 11% pass rate. And I was just convinced I was going to fail out and then I was going to have to go work EOD. That was my fear. So I learned how to study and I learned time management skills. And to this day, it's probably one of the best things that I got out of it, because anywhere you apply that is beneficial. Nobody is going
Yeah.
to complain about you having good time management skills, but they'll notice if you don't.
Yeah. It shows up. That's something you and I have in common. I don't think we talked about that offline before, but
Yeah.
I went to an engineering school.
So did I.
And engineering has a lot of math, and I exempted 100% of my college math, and I had to take remedial reading.
Yeah.
I didn't have to read in school. Grade school, I never took a book home. I was able to read Cliff Notes, study in homeroom, and still graduate top 5% of my class. So same thing, I got to college and I had no idea how to study.
I went to the
So
University of Missouri-Rolla on a ROTC scholarship for civil engineering, and I could not do it. Just couldn't.
everybody's got their path.
Yeah.
Time management, to your point, one of the earliest people I had on the podcast talked about choosing, he was Army guy, but choosing MOS. On the front, going in, he had some idea what he wanted to do when he come out, and he chose an MOS to prepare him for that.
So smart.
That's so smart, but he's the only person who's ever said that to me.
Yeah.
Normally they're doing military because they don't know what they want to do other than serve. So to know going in, you were kind of aware of some of that's good. But to your point, embracing those skills, keeping track of it during service is only going to benefit you well. And as I mentor veterans or talk to anybody about that, find things that are universal. AI is doing everything right now. If you understand data, you understand how to look for data. If you know how to do that, you know how to write prompts.
Yes.
Things like that are going to translate to almost any job that you do. So that's a good thing to hear.
We should have a talk at some point on prompt engineering.
We've done an episode of that early on, but the whole world changed in the last 4 months. Like I'm reading transcripts from episodes we did in January and February, and like they seem like they were 5 years ago.
I
Absolutely
know
insane
it's moving so
velocity.
fast.
So when you chose to get out, when you wrote your deuces, as you called it,
I did.
I know that you, in fact, this is how we met, was through resources you found. And
Mhm.
you found a few of them. We
Did.
actually met through HOH.
Yep.
Sirius has been a long-standing partner doing fellowships with the Hiring Our Heroes fellowships.
Yeah, you guys
And you were
didn't hire me.
you came on at a hard time. The first fellowship, the first list of resumes we got, I think there were 45 to go through. I think when you came through, we were getting between 150 and 250 resumes to try and choose from.
Oh,
During,
yeah.
and they're all good. That's the worst
Yeah.
part.
I think you may have known that I didn't make it through the first time I applied for the HOH program.
I don't think we knew that. I could be
Yeah.
wrong, but I don't remember ever seeing that information.
Yeah.
I know the criteria to get in fact, I think that's why they were getting so many applications to get into the program. Like it was just impossible. The number of people that would come through, find a fellowship, and then wind up getting full-time employment. Like it's important to have that statistic high. If you come in and spend a lot of time doing this and you don't get a job on the backside of it, like is the program succeeding? So I know they kept adjusting the criteria to get into it. And like once you came through once, my understanding was it was very, very difficult to come in again. But
So
I don't recall hearing that. I can't say nobody else knew it, but I didn't.
Well, so let me go back one step. So I found out about Salesforce in January of 2023. All right. So I was already in the Google Data Analytics program through HOH because I thought that I was going to end up going that route because I have an analytics background, I have an Intel background. It just seemed like what I was going to end up doing. I also still wasn't completely sure that we weren't going to live near an Intel hub where I wouldn't go back and work for the government. So I figured that was a good idea. And then I got emails from HOH about the Salesforce program. And I was like, oof, I don't do MLMs. Like that's not for me. Cause that's what it sounded like was an MLM. But I looked into it and I was like, oh, this is still data. And this fellowship pays. The Google fellowship didn't pay that they had at the time. So I was like, I want that. And so my mentor over at HOH was like, okay, well, you have to get a system administrator certification and you'd have to get it done by like February 15th. And this was like January 3rd. I still have the emails going back and forth with her. She was amazing. And I was like, yeah, no, I can do it. And she's like, no. She's like, you have like 6 weeks. Like people take 6 months to a year to get this. And I was like, no, I can do it. Like I'm telling you. She's, well, you have to finish the Google Data Analytics. I was like, yeah, but I have 6 months to do that. You're telling me I have to do this in 6 weeks. I was like, I'll get both of them done. Like, don't worry about it. Because if you sign up for one of those programs, you don't complete it, they don't allow you to come back. So because I had signed up for the Google Data Analytics and I took somebody's spot, I still had to finish it.
Right.
So I got my system administrator in like 5.5 weeks. And I took it twice. I failed it the first time and I studied for a solid like day and took it again. And I got it in the day before it was due. And Iris Collis, I know you know Iris. I love that woman more than anyone. She had me come in. She goes, well, what do you want to be in Salesforce? You just found this out. What do you want to be? And I was like, I want to be an admin. And she goes, what does that mean, Megan? I was like, it means I want to be an admin. And she's like, go back. She's like, we cannot put you through. I mean, they put me through like 2 rounds, like coming through the filtering process. But on that second round, she was like, absolutely not. I cannot put you in front of anybody.
Yeah, the minimum requirement to get into HOH was you had the admin cert.
And
but
I did
what
it.
we were seeing was 90% of the people that were coming through had that experience and other certs. Like the bar just got so high.
Yeah.
It was insane. But you beat me by a long shot. It took me 11 years to get my admin cert.
It's okay. You don't need it at all.
I didn't have a need for it. My company didn't care.
The marketing manager at my company now has presented at Dreamforce. He does not have an admin cert.
Yeah, they kept asking me to present, and I said, "When you're ready to do a session on what not to do, I'm your guy." I was like, "I've got years of material for that presentation." So, all right. So you came through HOH. You did make it into the program.
I did
but there are
eventually
other
make it in.
resources you found. So
Yes.
I have a hard rule about not talking bad about programs here. That's not the purpose. We want to identify those that we can find out firsthand that every program's got its own lane, the things they do, the things they specialize in. And there's this evolving trust or sharing that's kind of starting to come where programs, they don't really work together per se, but if you're in one program and you need something, they don't offer it, they'll recommend somebody that does. Like they're very aware of one another. But talk
Okay.
a little bit about the different programs. I think most of them you've mentioned to me we've covered before, but again, I want to make in this world where things are coming and going very quickly. Let's talk about the ones you found. What were some specific things you recall or benefits you found from each one, if you don't
So
mind?
yeah, obviously hiring our heroes. It's not just the Salesforce side. They have an entire program for transitioning service members and veterans and military spouses. And that's where,
Okay.
we talked about like I have my two hats is that I had way more resources available to me than most people do. So I was just grabbing everything I could. And that's why I got into the Google data analytics and then did the Salesforce. On top of that, they put me in touch with Candorful for my interviewing. One of the things we didn't talk about was after I got out of the military, worked for Avenge, and then I worked for a company called OTA doing OSINT work. But after I had my daughter, my husband was still active duty. I took 8 years off to be a stay-at-home mom. So I'm not going to say I took that time off. Okay. I got my bachelor's, I got my master's, I raised a kid, I homeschooled for 2 years during COVID. So I wasn't off. I wasn't working officially. And so I hadn't interviewed. And that's the other thing. Even after coming out of the military, people were asking me to come work for them because my area of expertise was so small. I wasn't having to reach out and ask people for interviews or look for jobs. People were offering me jobs, right? So I never had to interview. I never had a resume. I didn't need one. And so all of a sudden, I need to learn how to interview and I need a resume, right? So Candorful, I went through HOH. They set me up with 3 interview sessions, which was fantastic. It gave me a chance to really clean up my elevator pitch and really focus on the things that I could pull from my resources, even though they weren't recent. You have skills coming out of the military that you're never going to lose. Whatever those are, you're going to pick up something that's going to translate no matter what. And as a military spouse, dealing with a military service member and dealing with all that, you're going to pick up things from that will translate
Right.
into actionable things to do. Right. So they helped me really get into that and figure out what I had to offer, even though I felt like I hadn't done anything in so long. Because
Mhm.
that's not true. Like I said, I was doing a
Yeah.
lot, but when you're putting in, 60, 70, resumes, and by the way, my resumes weren't good. This was before I got my fellowship and nobody would talk to me. I needed that hand holding. And HOH set me up with Candorful, and then they set me up with Hiring Heroes USA to help me with both a federal and a civilian resume. I didn't end up needing the federal one, obviously, but I have it hiding somewhere that they did help me write in case I needed it. So those are the big ones. Veterati, which is now called Post Veterati, and I think you reached out to Evan, but we should definitely put that in the links, is a great program to help anybody, veteran or military spouse. If you're trying to transition into the civilian workspace, you can go on there, log in as, a mentee, and you can start searching through mentors in the field that you want to get into, right? So I
Mhm.
used that. I didn't even know what I was looking for at the time, but I knew I was probably going to be in tech. So I reached out to multiple people here in New Jersey to talk to I was looking for women who got out of the military and were working in tech. And then after I used that for a while, I was like, this is awesome. I want to volunteer. So I started volunteering as a mentor on Veterati. I did that until it got turned off for a little while. It's turned back on now, but because I'm a user group leader and because I'm doing M2H, I just don't really have the bandwidth to volunteer again right now. I would like to again in the future, but I just can't say enough great things about that program and Evan in general. What was the other one? I think it's an M2H. Like we don't
Yeah.
even have it on here. But I found Military Trailblazer Office Hours through my friend Priscilla, and because she also went through HOH. And that one, man, that's one of those where I just showed up. I was just like, hi, I'm Meagan. I don't know what I'm doing, but I need help and I need people. So
You're a walking, talking billboard for MTOH.
I am.
It surprises me we don't have more people show up for it. But any question in the world, there's nothing off the table. Show up, and then Bill takes it as a personal challenge to go find an answer and come up with something for
Bill
you.
is
He's amazing.
amazing. Can we talk about that
Yeah,
golden hoodie
we
recipient while we're here?
and Salesforce MVP.
And MVP. I know I
Yeah,
saw that. I'm so
yeah.
happy for him. When he asked me if I wanted to be a co-host, I was like, yes, yes, I do.
Little fangirl for sure. I was just absolutely blessed to be in DC for the Salesforce Military AI Summit, but then the DC World Tour was the next day. And I happened to be in the room when he got his golden hoodie, and he was not expecting it, just a humble guy. And that's, I almost everybody I talk to, Salesforce employees or not, to me, when Salesforce created communities, when they created Trailhead that enabled the creation of communities, it's the single best thing they've ever done as a company.
100%.
I struggled as an admin for a really long time. You could find YouTube videos of past Dreamforces, but even Twitter back then wasn't the greatest. You had to go pay to sit in a classroom to take a class if you wanted to get one back then. So I took a job to lead Salesforce at my company in June. We kicked off the project in July. Our first launch was in September. And this is eventually got to a 1,500 user org, but we went live with 500 users. I had never managed a CRM. I didn't even know what CRM stood for at the time. Went live in September. October was my first Dreamforce, and they flew me in. I went to an admin boot camp. It was a 5-day class. They did it in 2 days. So I flew in. I had that class on Saturday, Sunday, and then had Dreamforce Monday through Thursday, and then flew home. If you'd have held my head under a fire hydrant for 3 hours, I wouldn't have felt worse. It was the most horrible experience. To try to learn, because I didn't know what I didn't know at that point. Like if you,
and that's
probably like you felt when you started your admin training, but it's insane. It's a lot.
I wasn't joking. So in air crew, CRM is crew resource management, and I still it doesn't leave. So if I hear CRM at work, I'm just like Salesforce. I can't break out the acronym in my head. Like it's already, the space is already taken up. So
yeah, I hear people in the ecosystem a lot talk about if there's an acronym in the ecosystem that's similar to something they learn in the military, it just absolutely screws them all up. So it's not just you.
Makes you feel better.
So great advocation for so many programs. And we want to highlight all of those. I want to call this out. We had Stephanie from Hiring Our Heroes on a few months ago, and they branched out. Stephanie Murphy, the one and only.
I love that woman.
But Hiring Our Heroes has branched beyond tech, and now they've got trades programs. So they ran a pilot, and it's now officially launched. So you've seen hiring things posted about it, but now they're offering different trades. I think the Lowe's Foundation's getting behind it, and so glad to see that. Like that, I'm a big fan of Mike Rowe, who talks about the trade deficit gap. He's an awesome dude, man. He should be president and so many more things, but he's a finite being. But he's talked about that for a long time and really has inspired me. But he talks about that. And so for them to be putting money over there and offering that, because not everybody wants to go into tech. Like
no.
There's, go ahead.
I was going to say, tech is like college. Like not everybody needs to go into college. Not everybody needs to go into tech. We're talking about my younger brother. He's an electrician in the Navy, but that little punk, he'd already been helping my dad. And my dad does electrician work. My dad's like an everything handyman back in Missouri, and he has his own company. And my little brother, both of my brothers, worked with him. And so when he went to C school, he actually got promoted quicker because all the stuff they were teaching to the electricians, like he already knew how to do it. He'd already done it in real life. He'd been wiring
houses since he was 6, probably.
Yeah.
Right?
But now he teaches it, which you never met my younger brother. Like when we were kids, the idea that he is teaching in the Navy how to do electrician work on like nuclear warships. I'm like, are you sure they know who you are?
Being an electrician in the Navy is a little bit different than residential stuff for sure.
Yeah. But, like my little brother didn't go to college. He didn't want to go to college, but he is doing exactly what he, wants to do and knows how to do. And when he gets out, like he's not going to be able to find work. You know what I mean?
Yeah, sure. I mean, that's what I told my sons. My youngest went to college for welding, but I said he wanted to be a fireman for a long time. I'm like, what are you going to do the other 3 days a week? Because you're on 24, you're off 48. You're going to need a day job, something you can retire from. You're not going to live and retire on fireman's salary. So I said, look at the trades. I'm like, you're not going to find a white collar job that allows you to disappear 2 to 3 days a week every week. So look at those. Look at things that are resilient. That there's not going to matter. Working on heat and air, whatever kind of stuff. And
that's my dad always jokes is people are always going to need their toilets fixed.
Yep.
Yep.
Things that go up during recessions are alcohol sales and like mechanical things like fixing heat and air and repairing cars and stuff like that. So
yep. Yeah, right.
So you mentioned time management. Some other things you learned we talked about, I definitely want to speak to, because this is a thing that I think for both military spouses and veterans, I think is not touted enough. I think if you interview any veteran, and I work with a bunch of them, and you stick them with non-service members in a room and hard stuff happens, you don't have to wait on them to speak. They just respond differently. The ability to tolerate an incredible amount of BS coming at you, chaos, bombs going off, whatever that situation is, to cut through that, what matters, and just move and react. So talk a little bit about some flexibility and things like that you learned during your time reserve. Like we talked about time management kind of being a skill, but there are things that I don't even know if I'd call these skills. These become traits of how you do all the things you do.
I mean, I kind of joked about it earlier, right? flexibility and resiliency. They talk about resiliency training in the military. Like all your veterans have heard it, but they don't realize that the civilian side isn't getting it. So we understand that things get hard. And you, like you said, you just keep moving, you keep going. You can't just stop. Like there's no stopping. So both of those go hand in hand. You need to be flexible because you're going to have a plan and the plan's never going to work. So you better be able to shift to your next plan and then your backup plan from that. Like it's just your plan is there to be broken. And then the resiliency to keep going when your plans keep failing, right? We joked about this when we in like my squadron, like back in the day, stepping to a jet to like take off. Okay, well, by the time you're in the air, you have new coordinates. So whatever you're planning on doing, you're doing something else. Whatever your mission was that day, you're probably doing something else. And then if your plane breaks, you're stepping to a new plane, or maybe your equipment broke and now you're getting new equipment, or you need to go update something. Like everything is always in flux. And some people don't do well with that. And that's okay. I'm not saying that everybody should be able to do that. But I will tell you that military veterans and military spouses handle it a lot better than people who have not faced consistent amounts of adversity in their lives. I'm also not saying I want everybody to live hard lives. These aren't easy lives, but it doesn't break you. It doesn't. I'm trying to think of a really like good way to say it. I know when I'm on a call or in a group with other veterans or military spouses, like if something hard happens or something, bad happens, or even some, people are going to act. I'm not saying act without thinking. I'm saying they can act because they can look around and see the nearest, hottest threat and realize what needs to be done and then do it, not just without waiting for other people, but while communicating with other people. That's the difference, I think. That's going to actually lead me into like my whole spiel on soft skills, right? Like I was like, AI is everything, especially like in our space, right? With tech. But I need somebody who can tell me right now what needs to happen next without feeding it through an AI filter first, and then also be able to respond on that, like in real time, and then make a plan. Now, if you want to go feed your plan, I use AI. You and I both know I use AI all the time. But in like time sensitive matters, like I need a response and I don't need to know what the LLM told you to say. And I feel, and this is me being super biased, I'm not going to claim to not be biased. I think military spouses and veterans are very good at that in general. That's all.
I agree completely. And it's not a new thing for veterans and military spouses, because I know that's been a part of training. Is like the plan is 10%, 90% is what happens when the 10% doesn't work. Like it's more contingency planning than it is actual mission planning.
100%.
But all that said, it seems more now that people are less prepared for that. There's far less resiliency in your typical college graduate or high school graduate than you would see in that regard. So when you put, if companies are out there looking, and I'm getting ready to have several pretty large companies come on and talk about their military recruiting. I recently interviewed Dean Robeson, as a matter of fact, great guy, high up in the ranks of Salesforce, really close to Benioff. But he just loves what he does. He loves what he does. And I said, what's one thing you want people to take away? And he says, hiring military is not philanthropy. It's just smart business. And I see it here every day. Like, because hard stuff happens. And it's not just because we're in consulting. Like, life be life in it. This goes on. But when you can stick people in a room and like, I don't have to worry about them running. Like, I just want somebody I know is going to be there to do that job. And that's something my dad put in me. Like, he was Army, but he never was rigorous that way. He was a Vietnam era, so he never talked about it. I've probably had 30 minutes of Vietnam conversations with him my entire life. Like, he doesn't talk. My grandfather was in Korea. He talked less than my dad. I didn't know he was a veteran until right before he died. So I got service in my family, but I just knew nothing about what they experienced or whatnot. But that said, life traits and characteristics and training and being there and showing up, and if it's worth doing, it's worth doing right. And your word means everything. You got to be able to trust people. And the resiliency, all those things, you mix that up and you call them soft skills. But to me, they're the number one thing that I want to find when I hire somebody. Can I trust you? Yeah. If I throw it over the wall and it's your job to do that, do I ever have to ask you again, or is it just going to get done? And I don't say this as a joke, but Meagan comes to Military Trailblazer. She's got a rucksack on. She's on a treadmill. She's eating lunch and she's answering questions. Nobody's probably surprised by that at this point, but the girl can multitask. And very, very few people can do that well.
And got stuff to do.
You got stuff to do. You can only wear 11 hats if you know how to wear 11 hats, right?
Somebody else was joking about that with me today about some stuff I'm working on, about like how many hats I have. And I was like, I have a couple, just a couple. Now, it's funny you said that about the Vietnam stuff. I think I told you well, I mean, we just talked about it. My grandpa, my mom's dad, did 33 years in the military, and he actually never talked to me about his deployments until I got back from my first deployment. My first deployment got extended to 11 months. It was supposed to be like 4. And because it was like split between 2 countries, I didn't get to come home in between. Usually if you do 12 months, you get to come home for a couple weeks. But if it's less than 12, like you're not coming home. But I started out in Afghanistan and then got sent to Iraq, and I just came home and I just was not doing well. It wasn't what I expected. It wasn't like my mom always joked when I joined, because I was 108, I was supposed to be just on the rivet joint out of Offutt. And so I was supposed to have this like really cush like med tours or like being out of like England. And then I ended up in Bagram and then Balad and then Tikrit and then Mosul. And so like I came home, my grandpa's like, "You okay?" And I was like, "I lost it." I started crying. I was like, "I'm not okay." He's like, "Yeah, I didn't think so." And then he just sat there and he just poured me a drink and just, started just talking. And like, the one thing that I did learn from him that I didn't really think about that we don't have is he said when he was coming back, you remember he joined the end of World War II, but he went to Nam, he went to Korea, he had a couple tours in Vietnam, but he said at least when he left, he had downtime. It took him weeks to get home. And so in the weeks to get home, he had time to kind of decompress and like change over. I literally got on a plane from Iraq. I had a layover in Germany, and then I was back in the States and I had nowhere to sleep and was in my car for like 2 days because my squadron wasn't told that I was coming back because I was on a single person like deployment. And then I checked in and I just drove home. So like from being in Iraq to being in my parents' house was 3 days, like 3.5 days, like something like that, something ridiculous, right? And I just didn't acclimate well my first deployment. By my 4th, I was fine. But I just remember my grandpa just being like, "It'll get better." I'm like, "Really? Really?" And as he said, he goes, "I just feel bad for you guys." He's like, you guys don't have a break in between being on and being with your family again, where they had that. And not that it was good back then. Don't mistake me for that, but it was different.
Yeah. You didn't get therapy on the way home, but you got time to talk to those that survived and had to deal with something similar. And
Yeah.
they say what they want, but that we talk about them here all the time. In fact, it's what we call our custom agents. We call them battle buddies.
Nice.
Because they're tools, right? We go do the things we got to do, and they're tools that help us do our jobs. Same thing in the military when you're serving. Like that's the secret, is having somebody that has your 6. I got involved with doing this because my best friend was a police officer killed in the line of duty, and it's the same kind of thing of people that just go and do that job, and with no regard's not a right way of saying it. They have plenty of regard, but the mission matters. And he actually was killed because an incident happened. The officers that were first on scene, the crime that was going on, those people attacked the cops, so the distress call went out. So you can certainly relate to that. If people you love and serve with are in danger, what you're coming with is different. So he was responding to that when he got killed in a car wreck. But seeing that type of discipline and commitment. If you're not, as my buddy says, if I didn't light your fire, your wood's wet. Like it motivated in a way that school never did. Yeah. And so to be in a place now to be able to tell some of these stories and hear some of them, man, forget Hollywood, forget the movie theater. If you want to have some high quality time in your life, go find a veteran sitting in a Cracker Barrel, buy their breakfast, and sit down and say, "Just tell me about your story."
I love Cracker Barrel.
Let them go where
you guys want to buy me Cracker Barrel? I worked at Cracker Barrel.
It's a good thing.
I waitressed at Cracker Barrel in high school. I have no shame.
If you haven't been there, Google it, go find it. It's worth the trip.
Y'all can hate on me, but I miss my Cracker Barrel and my Waffle House. But no, I was going to show you because we talked about this before too. So my grandpa was retired Command Sergeant John Terrio. He is everything to me. And so when I got back from that first deployment, I actually flew this flag on all of my flights for that. So I did 118 combat stories on that deployment. The part in So, and then I got this. But my grandpa died a few years ago, and I had no idea where this was. My uncle called me, and I was like, "I found something, and I think it's yours." And he sent it back. So now I have it. And good times. But I was so proud to give him that. Yeah. I thought I was so cool. You know what I mean?
Yeah, the routines, the things that veterans hold on to, I've just become enthralled with hearing those stories and whatnot. It blows my mind. Yeah, I have that effect.
I miss my grandpa a lot.
I get it. So we've talked about your road into service, but you wind up marrying somebody that went into that too.
Yeah,
Where in your journey did that happen?
I joked that I picked up a souvenir on my last deployment. Yep, we met. He was sitting ops desk. He was the most beautiful man I'd ever seen in my entire life. But yeah, no, we met out there. Obviously, he was a pilot. I was ISR operator, and I was the N2IC out there. So we knew we liked each other. But when he was leaving, I was just like, "So I'm getting out of the military, by the way." And he's like, "Oh, are you?" I was like, "No, no, I am. Like, I'm getting out. Like, I've got this deployment, and then when I get home, like, I'm going on terminal leave." And he's like, "Well, if you're getting out, I want to date you." And I was like, "I'm getting out." So when I got back from my deployment, we like started talking, and I dropped my papers. I was like, "All right, game on."
You found your
And
next mission.
I did. I was successful. Thank you very much. But yeah, so I immediately, like, I literally got home and was like done. I went on my terminal leave. I had like 90 days of terminal leave because I had just not been able to take leave because I kept deploying. And I had my dog back then, and I literally went and disappeared for like 2 weeks in the mountains. He probably thought I was crazy because I was like, I'm going camping out of my car with my German Shepherd. Like, I'll see you when I get back. And I did. And then, yeah, and I called him when I got back. It was great. But yeah.
You got a plan.
And then that was also when I was trying to decide a job, where was I going to go? And he had just found out he was getting stationed at Dover. But I had a job offer in Beale in California with the ISR program up there. And I had the job offer in Maryland at Aberdeen Proving Grounds. And I was like, hey, take this job in California. Like, we're done. Like, there's no way I'm going to
There's long distance and then there's California, right?
Yeah. So I was like, I guess I'm going to go to Maryland. And I would go every weekend to see this man. And he'd come up on any other weekends. And, then he'd deploy, but I'd be working 60 hours. And finally got to a point where he was like, I think we should be married. I was like, yeah, probably. And then, yeah, then we found out that we were having our daughter like a month and a half before he was deploying. So that sucked. So he missed most of it. Came back for the last month. He thought I was a whole different person. I was crazy. And we went back to Dover, which is where our daughter was born, and just lived that life, which is completely different. Like, all of a sudden it was being the military spouse and he'd be gone. And what I didn't recognize when I was active duty was that like military spouses were on their own. And I was definitely on my own. It wasn't just that he was an officer. It was, I think at that time he was in charge of OGV and just in a pretty high position. I will tell you, and it really annoys me to this day, but I felt really weird about trying to make friends with a lot of the military spouses. Number one, because I didn't feel like I related to them at all. But number two, because he was an officer and like the women that I was like meeting, hang out with were other enlisted wives. And the commander's wife literally told me one day that I could not just like go be friends with these women. And she goes, you will never, ever be able to help your husband in his career in anything you do, but you can destroy it. She goes, you cannot fraternize with enlisted wives. And I was crushed. Like, I just didn't have a support group and I really didn't know anybody at his squadron, and we lived off base. So, but we were there for like another year and a half. And then when we got to Altus, it was completely different. Like, it was so great. Like, you have a really like terrible like stereotype of like what you think like women are. And I grew up military, and all the women I knew were just stay-at-home moms. Like, they didn't want to go to college, they didn't want to do this. And that is not how it is now. Like, I met a woman, she was literally a rocket scientist for NASA, but she decided to stay home and raise her kids. I met another woman who was working for like a Fortune 500 company, met her husband, decided she wanted to raise her kids. And these are smart women, and these are just, go back to the resiliency and flexibility. Like, I knew what I was getting into joining the military, and I knew what I was getting into marrying a C-17 pilot. These women jumped into these relationships having no idea what military life was like, and they freaking stick it out. And
I was going to say, do you think it was easier or harder, better or worse? Because you probably knew things that the other spouses needed to know, and you couldn't tell them. Like, you just,
there were times,
you know the rules of the game, right?
Yeah. I do remember this poor woman. She had to be like 20 years old, maybe 21. And she was married to a baby lieutenant. And so fresh out of college. And she's like, I'm so worried for him because he's deployed right now. And I was like, he's in the deed. Like, he's literally gym tan laundry right now. Like, they're cooking his food for him. They're doing his laundry. He's fine. Like, what are you worried about? I didn't say that to her, but in my head, I'm like, do you have any idea? You have no idea. But
sometimes what you don't know is worse than what you do know.
Yeah,
right?
she knew what a good time he was having.
Yeah.
Like, you know what I mean?
She would have signed up too, right? Let's go.
I joked about it before when he was going on deployments. I was like, I would change like positions with him in a second right now. Like I had those days. Like I wish I could just go fly a mission and then land and like drop off my laundry and go to the DFAC and have somebody make my eggs the way I like them and my hash browns. Like that would be great. That would be nice. As I'm like changing the diaper on this screaming child who I love with all of my heart, but I just would like to go like sit in the back of an aircraft.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
Yeah. There's something to be said for routine, even if it's a hard routine, right?
Yeah. Yeah. So,
What
but
were
that's,
some, as you
yeah,
look back over this, like your journey is colored. I mean, certainly talking about some of the things you chose, you find a way to choose things. Opportunistic is not the right word. You're very
that
strategic
is
in the
such a
things you
nice
chose.
thing to say. I say.
You're strategic, not opportunistic. You're
I
strategic.
was
I'm
about to
sorry, I
say.
trip over English sometimes. It is my first language, but I never said I was fluent at it. For so very strategic in the choices you made, but just in what you chose and on the way in and on the way out, like trying to find ways to make sure you stay relevant and have opportunity, right? These are not bad things. These are good things, but it's not always, even with the best of intentions, nothing survives first impact, like all the plays of the world, but sometimes you got to pivot. So what were some unplanned or some surprising things in this journey that just stand out to you as you look back on it?
Well, for one, I don't think we talked about this, but my master's degree is in international security and intelligence studies, and I did my focus on nuclear deterrence theory in the Middle East. Like my whole thing was written on the JCPOA with Iran, like the Iranian deal. Like that was my focus. That was my thesis. And number one, that's completely blown up, literally and figuratively. But
Timing
like,
is everything.
I know. But so I assumed that I would go back to working in Intel. Like that was it. Like it never crossed my mind that I would have to like switch careers. I mean, before the military, I kind of like I had jobs, right? But I didn't have a career. And like, so from the military, like, I went into sub for Boeing, and then I was an open source intelligence analyst for their company out of DC. Like I just thought that was how it was going to be. I also didn't plan on marrying a freaking pilot, right? And moving every 2 years. Like I didn't plan for any of that. So, calling me strategic is being very nice. I feel like I kept like trying to do the hard thing, but now I'm in Salesforce. So how do you make that translate, right? You have to figure out a way to make two seemingly unrelated things make sense. So what makes sense for me? Right? Like I told you, I started out with the Google data analytics. That seemed like a plan. I know how to do vignettes. I know how to do after action reports and debriefs and missions and analytics. Like I know how to do those things. I know how to do spreadsheets, and I know how to do data tables, and I can do Tableau and R and all of these things. So I was able to translate that over to Salesforce. But we talked about the 𝗁𝗄 fellowship, right? And, I didn't get it with you guys, boo, but I ended up with, higher echelon. And for those who don't know, higher echelon was a summit partner with Salesforce in the Fed space. So they were, that was a big reason I wanted to work for them. Why? DoD contracts. What did I immediately do? I found the DoD contracts. I got on 2 different Air Force projects. Why? Because I reduced the stress on myself of things I needed to learn by putting myself in projects where I already knew the underlying mission sets and data sets and acronyms. I gave myself all of that space to give myself time to learn the platform. Like not everybody needed me to know the platform right away. That's important.
Right.
Your tech skills are important, but we kind of joke that I'm still translating. Like I'm translating needs. So I was a person that could sit in front of the product owners and they would explain something, and then I can turn around to my team and say, this is what they're asking for. This is why they're asking for it. And this is how we can solve. And then, we turn it around to like a really good presentation. We build out our user stories. We get our acceptance criteria. We build it. We get sign off on it and we go, right? But it makes it so much smoother when there's someone in there that has both sides that they can communicate from. This is
For
what I'm
sure.
talking about, those soft skills again, right?
Yeah.
Like my soft skills are translating requirements needs. My soft skills are understanding documentation. In this job that I'm in currently at MBNA, which I love my new company, they're fantastic. I loved my old company too. I just needed more space to grow. And MBNA gave me that opportunity at a time that I needed it. But in both places, understanding the DoD space, security requirements, Salesforce, and being able to translate from both sides of the project made me, I won't say invaluable. You're never invaluable. You're always replaceable, but it made people want to work with me. I'm not going to be humble about that. I try very hard to make people want to work with me because I like when people, I need gold stars. Okay. I need people to like me, but I need my results to matter. If I do something wrong, I'll say you can't hurt my feelings, but you can crush my ego. If I screw something up, like hands down, you'll crush my ego, but you won't hurt my feelings if you're giving me feedback that is actionable. If you're telling me something I can fix, if I screw something up, that's fine. I can get past that. No problem. So really, to bring that full circle, you have to find the things that your skills translate to. You have to highlight those and you have to use those as leverage to put yourself in positions where you know that you're the best person to go to, or at least the best that people want to go to.
Yeah. I mean, what you described, I think back over my career of everybody in this space, we call them accidental admins because like nobody came out of high school, talked to the accountants, go, you should go become a Salesforce admin. They didn't know what that was. So we all have there's no such thing as a traditional road to the admin thing. Yours is probably as close as any is. You just kind of found it. I'll go get an admin and go do it. But when you become an admin, it's not about knowing where to click. If that's all you know, then there's going to need to be 2 or 3 more people in the room to get things done. So what you're describing, yes, they're soft skills, but they're also analytical. I just can't overstate how important it is to be able to sit in a room, hear that thing said, understand enough context. That's just a life experience. They said this, but what you mean is this. So when you think anything like user stories, acceptance criteria, that means one thing to technical people. It means something completely different to business people. And it truly is a rare thing to come across people that can do all of that. So
it really is. The cronyism is real though in my case, because one of the projects was actually at a base that my husband was the DO at. So I knew the commander's wife. Like I knew. So I got on that project and they were like, wait a minute. I'm like, hey guys, how you guys been? So, but it helped, right? Because here's the other thing too, that I think, and this is something that veterans and military spouses should lean into more, is your network. There is nothing wrong with using your network. In fact, I think it is underused. I think people get very scared of relying on their network for things because maybe they think it'll take away from their own abilities or skill sets, saying, oh, I just know because I know that person. No. That person knows you and that person knows what you're capable of.
Yeah.
So you should absolutely rely on your network, whether it's for me, when I was looking for new opportunities, my network is not massive, right? But it's big enough that the marketing person from MBNA found me, right? Am I going to be like, oh no, don't talk to me because you saw me at M2H? No, I'm not,
Yeah.
And I say this all the time, I tell people to reach out. Like if you want to talk to someone and I know them, I will connect. Now, if I don't think you should talk to them, I won't do it, but I've never had that happen. I have never had somebody be like, hey, I want to talk to this person. Can you introduce me? And I've said no, ever.
Yeah.
Because it is
I
so
met
important.
Bo Higgins. I don't know if you know Bo, but I met him a few weeks ago.
I do know Bo Higgins. I don't know him personally, but I know of him. Let me rephrase that.
But just interviewed him. His episode came out last week. But he had this quote, and I love it. He says, your network is your net worth.
I've heard that, and I love it.
I love the phrase. And again, somebody might hear that statement or read that tagline and go, that's opportunistic. You're just using everybody around you. And he says, no. Like he equated to the military because I used the word networking. I said, you say networking around veterans and they break out in a rash because it feels so fake and not strategic. He says, it's the same as what you did in the military. It's like, if you need a so-and-so, you called somebody at the auto pool or down at the mess hall, or
100%.
You knew how to get stuff done. And if you didn't know how to do it, you knew somebody who did. That's networking in a nutshell. And what you're describing is just be a good human, connect with people, help people when you can. That's what I love about NTOH. If you're not a part of it, you need to get on there. There's all over LinkedIn. Find the link, join the meeting every Friday, noon Eastern. Come on. But it's about that. Show up. And 9 times out of 10, I've been off the bleeding edge of the Salesforce stuff for several years now. But even I have something useful to say every now and then.
Yes, you do.
Everybody can contribute. So find a way to go do that. And to me, the takeaway here, it's not just about Salesforce. It's not even about tech careers. The accumulation of choices you made, experiences you made, and people you met have rounded you out to find a way to be so impactful at a variety of different things. I'm like, did you have an advisor between Arabic studies and I didn't even know what you said about nuclear disarmament or whatever.
Theory.
There you go. Deterrency. That's a big D word.
Yes.
But I didn't see any of the things you chose on any of the curriculum programs that I looked into, but you chose hard things, but you found a way to do that in such a way that it's equipped you to be very impactful in this space. And in this time and age where whether it's Salesforce or AI or Anthropic or what, any of these things, these are all, the hard thing about tech is it changes. Like if to your point, to be resilient,
As
if you
I
want a
say,
boring job, don't go into tech. Nothing about tech is boring. But once you learn analytical skills and listening skills and user story skills and presentation skills and about escalation rules and how to engage people, how to be present. The guy that works here, he was overseeing a project at an Air Force base to rebuild a runway. And he says, I've
thanks.
got no problem talking to C-suites. I've sat in front of colonels. Right?
Yeah,
Just
100%.
again, those things accumulate into skills that translate, but most people don't go through them and think about it that way. So a lot of it is mental stuff of just kind of really taking note and find a way to.
I will do one more plug for like my current company. So the one thing that I've had standard across every job I've been in as an adult is I have always been one of the only women in the room. Like always, just always. That's just how it is. And the company I'm at right now, I'm on an all female tech team.
Cool.
And they are fantastic. Like it's a whole different thing. I don't even know how to explain it, but like I said, I've always been the one that's had to show up and had to like prove that I know how to do my job. And like, I promise I'm here because I'm supposed to be here. And I came in my first day, I was like, oh my gosh. I was like, I said something. I was like, I'm going to be like, I got to like take my daughter to the bus stop. And they're like, just put on your calendar. We don't care. We know you're going to do your job. I was like, okay,
Awesome.
cool.
Awesome.
Thanks.
Yeah. The world, she's a changing. Yeah.
Is hopefully for the better. 'Cause I'm
Meagan,
raising a daughter.
this has been extremely fun to talk about your journey because, again, there's no two veterans or military spouses for that matter, whose journeys are the same. So I love hearing the stories. I love the generational ties. So I love hearing about your grandfather and the flag. I've got a flag in the corner of my room it wasn't one from my grandfather's time of service, but it was his personal flag. And it means the world to me to have it here. And it'll never be flown on a pole in the back of my truck, even though we do that here in Georgia. But it did hang on the wall behind me here for a while. But really love going to all those stories.
Thank you for having me.
You've covered a lot of. We've been talking about this forever. You're just too dang
That's what I was
busy
just
to
about to
corner
say.
down
It
to
took
find
us
an hour.
so long.
Yeah.
I'm so
Yeah.
sorry.
No worries. With all that you've been through, all the choices you've made, all these things, tell me about something you've learned in this past year that it seems like you thrive in learning in hard times. I'm not going to call you sadistic, but you've made some hard choices that inevitably brought some of those things.
I mean, I've been called better, but I've also been called worse. So, I mean,
glutton maybe is a better term.
there we go. Yeah. So I think you've been through this. I know a lot of people have, but at my last company, like we went through an acquisition and I wasn't ready for it. Number one, we didn't know it was coming. Obviously, they weren't going to tell us that it was being acquired. But I did my fellowship there. I was there for like 2 years, over 2 years, 2.5 years, and I was so comfortable there. Right? I was comfortable with the company. I was comfortable with my work patterns. I was on a lot of projects, but I knew where I stood in everything and within the order of the company at itself. And then literally overnight, we got a call and it was like, okay, you're part of this new company. And we were like, what? And then everything started getting restructured. And as you know, everybody's like, what's going to happen next? And just as it was going on, I realized that the growth that I was hoping to continue, that I was on where I was at, just wasn't going to be the same in this new company. But it also, gave me kind of the confidence to be like, you know what, I've been here for 2.5 years. I have been on multiple projects. I now know how to do my job. I think I could do this job and more at another company. And so that was hard. That was really hard. Like, number one, I loved those people. I loved, call it their mission site. I loved everybody there. So leaving was so difficult, but the change was really good for me. I hadn't had any type of major change in my life for a while that I got a little complacent, and we should never get complacent. Like, facts.
Resilient's only resilient if you go through some stuff. Yeah.
That's it, right? You
it's
don't know if you're resilient until something's hard.
Yeah, right. Exactly right. There are some links that we'll have coming out of this, including you've already added it, the Jersey Shore Salesforce user group, Meagan's LinkedIn profile. Connect with her. She would love to talk to you.
I would.
She's a great person to know. She has connected me. In fact, the reason Tom House was on here and the reason I was at the AI Summit was because Meagan reached out and connected me and Tom. So I owe you that. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
But she's a great person to follow. Just a tremendous wealth of knowledge, a good human all the way around. So thank you for your service. Thank you for your families, your husband, your grandpa, your uncles, your grandmas.
I wasn't joking about my grandma.
Your grandma was a Marine. There's not
She was.
nobody I know can say that except you. But no, thank you for your family service and sacrifice, and thank you for being who you are. That you always want to give back. The world is a better place when people reach out and lift people up, and you're an example. You're a great person in that way.
Words
I'm
are
losing the
hard.
words. Sorry, but yeah, I think there's a lot of great opportunities to learn from our experiences. I think you've taught us a lot of lessons today on how to take those things and roll with them and be resilient. And your choices matter, right? From the people you meet to the jobs you take and to the things you study, these all accumulate, and don't discount any of it. You don't know when an acquisition's coming. You don't know when any of those things are going to come. So flex those muscles, learn how to network and get involved with people, because it's gonna change where you go. So thank you for your time. We'll see you Friday on 𝗁𝗂𝗄𝘁.
Yes.
Appreciate you coming on the show. Thank you.
Thank you.
All the best. Thanks for joining us today on Serious Talk, the Military Minute. Meagan, thank you, not just for the stories, but for naming the parts that don't usually make it into the highlight reel, writing your own 2-week notice after they had said no 3 different ways, and the 3.5 days it took you to go from a war zone to your parents' driveway with no time built in to decompress. Here's what I'm taking from this one. Your impact is only as good as the resources you actually use, and there's no shame in stacking all of them up. Meagan didn't wait for a single perfect program. She used hiring our heroes to get certified, Candorful to rebuild her resume and interview skills, then found Veterati and Military Trailblazer Office Hours along the way, and she turned that network into a real career. If you're a veteran or a military spouse figuring out your own next mission, follow Meagan's lead. There are many great resources out there, and all of them extend the network that helps propel you into your next mission. To Meagan, to your husband, and to a family that has answered this call for generations, thank you. This is Greg Banks signing off. I'll see you at the next briefing.